Deliver Us the Moon is an action puzzle narrative game developed by Kyokin Interactive. It was recently added to Xbox Game Pass, and I figured, what the hell? I like space, I like puzzles, I like narrative-based interactive gaming experiences, so why not give it a try? Alright, so this game kind of sucks. I'm going to be honest, I'm a total slut for achievements, so I figured this game might be kind of good for nabbing some easy points. For the most part, it was. But that doesn't mean it was a pleasant experience. The game mixes first and third person perspective depending on the level and the situation that your character is in. That alone makes the controls confusing. Adding to this is the fact that your spaceman main character feels like he is either moving in molasses or he's the strongest human being in existence, depending on the situation. Now, I understand that part of this is because the game takes place on the moon, so gravity is more like gravity because there's less of it. But that does not explain the floatiness of the character on Earth or the way he slides around the ground randomly when sprinting. The controls just aren't tight at all. Normally in a puzzle narrative type game, this wouldn't matter too much because the focus is on other things. But in this case, most of this game focuses on the main character wandering around and collecting audio logs and watching recordings about what happened to this sci-fi power source from the moon, where I think they either harvest helium, or maybe moon rocks, or maybe cheese from the moon surface. I'm not really sure which. However, every now and then, there is sprinkled in little sections when your character faces certain death through suffocation, being electrocuted, being smushed, being radiated to death, etc., etc., etc. These deaths seemingly come out of nowhere and are very frustrating. I consider myself a perfectly adequate gamer. Not very good, but okay. At every single point that you could die in this game, I did die. That gets pretty annoying after a little while, especially when you have to replay a QTE multiple times, or climb janky ladders, or float through space all over again, or take on the robot overlords one more time. It just gets tedious, and the tonal change between watching a boring hologram filled with plot, and then all of a sudden being exploded by an evil robot that comes out of nowhere, it just seems like it has no shift or change at all. Like, what the hell, robot? What did I do to you? Okay, this is my biggest problem with this game. Like, I don't even understand it at all. Again, I think I can figure out most stories in video games. I legitimately enjoy games like this. I enjoy the narrative experience, like Telltale style games where you're kind of just wandering around, you're kind of just watching things happen. You don't have a huge amount of input or things that are actually going to change, but you can enjoy the storyline of the game. This game kind of reminds me of Tacoma, but if the storyline made absolutely no sense. I think most of it was maybe heavy-handed metaphor for how we're destroying the Earth with pollution, but here's a quick summary from memory. Also, there's spoilers here. The Earth is dying and now a desert, but the moon has super fuel. So people have to live there, but then some guy makes them leave and go start a new human race somewhere else. Like basically saying that I'm going to take my ball and go home, but for like all of the human race. Then a girl goes up to save the moon base and help the fuel get back to Earth, but gets stopped by a crazy man who is trying to save his daughter, even though he abandoned a different daughter on Earth to die, which is like absolute favoritism to the max. And I think that our guy that we play is named Rolf, and he loves the girl who's named Sarah who went to save the moon, so he performs like a righteous seppuku and sacrifices himself for her just to die next to her cryo-frozen body. But at the same time, he restarts the energy source and he saves Earth, even though the only way Earth was ever going to survive is if they got the energy from the moon, but all of the human government shut down the moon project, even though it was the only way they were going to survive. So even going up to the moon was like against what everybody was saying to do. I think. But here's the thing. I think I just skipped over about a million things there, and I don't think I understood any of it. There's parts with like helium. There's parts where there was like an uprising or a rebellion. There's parts with like these big speeches to everybody on the moon colony. There's parts with like these crafts that like are gonna start the new human race and sail off. And I thought I was paying attention, but I guess not, because I didn't understand any of it. Okay, that whole thing might be wrong. In a game that's pretty focused on narrative, Like, that's probably about half the experience. You would hope that it would actually make sense to the player, but it really doesn't in the end. It makes all the dramatic moments feel weightless, kind of like a spaceman floating away from his space station after it gets ripped apart by something, because I don't even know what ripped apart that space station in that one scene. Overall, bottom line, the game's not good. I really did not enjoy it much at all. The controls are bad, the graphics aren't very good, the storyline is jumbled. The puzzles were pretty impressive and well thought out, so that's nice, but it's not really worth it in the long run to try and figure out all these puzzles when the payoff really is pointless. There are much better games to play, even on Game Pass, so don't really make the same mistake that I did. 4 out of 10. Do not recommend. Sorry. Deliver Us the Moon.